because I was just so focused on trying to find Meighan, and so I drove back and forth, I don't know, probably for about a half an hour, trying to find her.
This is Jennifer Weathers. She was the last person to see her daughter Meighan Cordie before Meighan jumped out of the car Jennifer was driving and disappeared into the night.
I'm calling her name and looking out the window and trying to hear her.
And you couldn't see her?
Mm-mm.
Did you hear anything when she jumped?
Mm-mm.
Jennifer waits a whole day before she reports this strange incident, and she doesn't seem all that concerned about finding her daughter. But investigators soon begin to notice that what she's saying isn't adding up. And then they find Meighan.
Medical examiner also releasing a report today saying Meighan Cordie died from blunt force trauma.
Jennifer was the last person to see Meighan alive. What is she hiding? Meighan Cordie lived in Dayton with her partner and 3-year-old daughter Gia. She appeared to be a loving mother, posting pictures of her daughter on social media and doting on her. The two had a loving relationship. But Meighan had a difficult relationship with her own mother, a volatile one. On August 18th, 2018, Jennifer, Meighan, and her daughter Gia attended a family friend's wedding in Hazer Farms on Grand Island, in rural Yamhill country south of Dayton. The beautiful location with rolling green farm hills was the perfect spot for a wedding.
It was a great day.
No arguments or anything?
No. It was a really nice day.
The day before, Meighan and Jennifer had debated about who would be driving to the wedding. Meighan wanted to drink, so she didn't want to drive. She already had a previous DUI incident and had a breathalyzer lock on her vehicle. Jennifer didn't want to be the designated driver because she knew that Gia would become tired and they would have to leave the wedding early. In the end, Jennifer agreed to drive her silver Honda CR-V. At the reception, Jennifer would later tell investigators that she celebrated drinking wine and dancing. At around 10:30 p.m., Meighan asked to leave the wedding reception as Gia was becoming fussy and tired. Eyewitnesses would later tell the police that Meighan wasn't intoxicated, although she had been drinking. At least 3 witnesses claimed that Jennifer was too drunk to drive. But Jennifer later tells investigators, quote, "When we left, I felt fine. I hadn't had any wine for a while. I was out dancing and thought I was fine." End quote. Jennifer claims that she and Meighan began to argue about having to leave early. As they drove away, the argument began to heat up. It came to the point where Meighan called her boyfriend and asked him to come pick her up. But he refused, saying he had work the next day. Meighan began demanding to be let out of the car.
Car down, she's like, "I'm gonna get out." And I'm like, "You're not getting out. You're not getting out of the car." And I was almost to a stop. And she started opening the door, which is why it's slowing down. And I was almost to a stop, and she just opened it and jumped out.
Jennifer tells police that she slowed down to about 5 miles per hour when Meighan jumped out from the back seat, leaving her shoes, purse, and cell phone in the front seat of the car. According to Jennifer, they were still quite close to the location of the wedding when this happened. Jennifer says that she got down and began looking for her daughter, but it was dark, as there were no streetlights or houses around. Thinking that Meighan must have started walking back to the reception, she decided to take her tired and crying granddaughter Gia back home. The next day, Jennifer called the non-emergency line for the police.
Sorry, my daughter has been missing since last night. And I'm getting kind of worried because she's supposed to work in 10 minutes and I haven't heard anything from her. We were at a wedding and she was upset and got out of the car and I haven't heard from her since. Drove around for 2 hours this morning looking for where she got out of the car, and I've checked the hospitals and I checked the jails and she's not in either one of those. So, and she doesn't have her phone. She didn't have her phone. She left it in my car. She didn't have her wallet. Everything was in my car.
Friends became worried when Meighan didn't show up to work. It wasn't like her to just disappear without a reason. They knew something was wrong. Over the next several days, volunteers quickly assembled and began to search for Meighan, including firefighters. Hundreds of flyers were printed and distributed. Aircrafts and helicopters began to search for Meighan, but there was no trace of her. It was almost like she just stepped out of that car and vanished into thin air. But then investigators had their first big breakthrough. When searching through Jennifer's Honda CR-V, detectives found a clump of Jennifer's hair in the front seat.
A large majority of it actually had roots still attached, so it's not the type of hair that's going to fall out while you're brushing.
What does that tell you?
Well, it got pulled out.
Some kind of fight or struggle or...
Some type of a physical altercation occurred inside that vehicle.
But Jennifer hadn't mentioned anything about a physical fight. And another thing wasn't adding up. Investigators had found Meighan's shoes, phone, and purse in the front seat of the car. Why were they in the front seat when Jennifer had said Meighan had been sitting in the back seat and jumped out from there? And another thing didn't sound right. Jennifer said the road had been very dark and that there were no houses or lights where Meighan had gone down from the car. But she believed that Meighan could have gone back to Hazer Farms on foot. And why hadn't Jennifer contacted the police immediately when she couldn't find her daughter? Jennifer's story wasn't making any sense, and detectives were becoming suspicious. They asked Jennifer to come in for a lie detector test, which she accepted. However, the results of the test came back inconclusive. Jennifer agreed to retake the test the next day, but the night before informed the polygraph examiner that she was not going to be able to make it. She was asked to reschedule the exam, but she never did. From there on, Jennifer stopped cooperating with the detectives.
At 4 with a sad update to a story we've been following all week. The body of a missing woman has been found.
On August 23rd, 5 days after Meighan had gone missing, 3 joggers spotted a dead woman over an embankment on the Dayton interchange with Highway 18, about 9 miles from where Jennifer had said that she'd last seen her daughter. The body was about 25 feet down the embankment. The clothing matched what Meighan had worn to the wedding, a blue flowered pantsuit.
Meighan Cordie died from blunt force trauma. She disappeared on Saturday after a wedding, joggers finding her body some 8 miles away.
The autopsy revealed that Meighan had died of blunt force trauma. She had suffered 2 broken vertebrae. The medical examiner also found that there was aortic separation, which would have caused immediate death. There was also no injuries or other indications on Meighan's feet to suggest that she had walked 9 miles barefoot from where Jennifer said she had jumped out to where her body was eventually found.
Why is Meighan there? How did she get there? And did somebody do something to her?
Investigators came to the conclusion that Meighan had jumped or fallen from a car that was moving much faster than her mother had described. She had died from exiting a fast-moving vehicle and hitting a fixed object, like a guardrail or a support post.
How fast do you think you were going when she jumped out?
Oh, I mean, like, literally, I was almost to a stop.
One thing was clear. Jennifer knew more than she was telling investigators. And then, investigators brought in the only other person who had been in the car the night Meighan had disappeared, her 3-year-old daughter, Gia. What she said would change everything. Little Gia tells investigators a crucial detail. She says that her mother had got out of the car not once, but twice. The little girl remembered her mother sitting in the front seat, having a fight with her grandmother, and then getting out of the car. Her mother then got back into the car and sat next to her car seat. She says the car was going fast. Investigators had enough information to piece together what had happened on the night of August 18. As Meighan and Jennifer argue over having to leave the wedding early, they begin to fight. While Jennifer is driving, Meighan grabs her mother's head and pulls a fistful of hair out. Meighan calls her boyfriend, who hears a lot of screaming and fighting over the phone. Meighan demands to be let out, so Jennifer slows down and Meighan jumps out. But then Jennifer convinces Meighan to get back into the car and start driving off again. At this point, it's likely that Meighan doesn't have her seatbelt on, but then there's a second argument. As Jennifer drives, she's intoxicated and distracted. She misses the turn to Dayton and is driving away from where Meighan lives. Meighan, angry and upset, demands Jennifer to stop the car, threatening to jump out. As the car follows a curve, Meighan either opens the door or the door unlatches accidentally. She immediately flies out of the car and slams with force against the guardrail support beam. Meighan is killed instantly. She then rolls under the support beam and down the embankment. Jennifer must know her daughter is no longer in the car. She knows something terrible has happened. But she drives away with Gia and waits until the next day when the effects of the alcohol have worn off before she calls the police. She makes up the story about Meighan running off into the darkness and how she goes searching for her. As the search for Meighan ramps up, Jennifer says nothing, even though she knows her daughter is likely dead.
It's almost unfathomable that somebody would not stop at the instant that she left the car. How could you have a car door open far enough that somebody could get out of the car and not hear it?
Investigators have pieced the story together, but can Jennifer be charged for her daughter's death?
Jennifer Weathers was driving the car last summer when her daughter either fell or jumped out of it. But the only crime she'll plead guilty to is drunk driving.
Meighan's death was ruled as accidental by the district attorney.
Mother of Meighan Cordie is facing charges indirectly related to the night that her daughter died because authorities deemed the death an accident.
Well, we could prove elements of a few different crimes. We just couldn't prove all the elements of any one crime related to the death. And that's why she wasn't charged related to the death.
Do you think Jennifer was intentionally withholding information?
I don't know. And the reason I say that is I wonder how intoxicated she was. We know she was intoxicated when she left. Did she really not know where she was at the time that Meighan left the car?
One thing was clear. The driver of the vehicle could not have been able to push Meighan out of the car. There was no indication that anyone had caused Meighan to leave the vehicle. She had done it on her own, or it had happened by accident. Jennifer was instead charged with driving under the influence of intoxicants and recklessly endangering another person, the toddler, Gia, not Meighan. She pleaded guilty to DUI and was sentenced to 5 days in jail. Meighan's father would later sue Jennifer for $500,000 for wrongful death, loss of companionship, and emotional distress. He alleged that Jennifer had been negligent in failing to stop or slow down and for driving while drunk. The judge later dismissed the lawsuit. Meighan's father would again sue, this time taking the venue that hosted the wedding to court for almost $1 million. He accused staff of negligently over-serving alcohol to Jennifer, which caused the sequence of events that ensued. But none of this would bring Meighan back. 6 months after her daughter's death, Jennifer changed her last name to Yeager. She was ordered not to have any contact with her granddaughter. Gia was taken into custody of her father, who lives in Salem, Oregon. She's surrounded by her loving father and his family, but she misses her mother. She attends counseling on a regular basis to help her cope with her memories of her mother. We may never know what really happened to Meighan Cordie that fateful night of August 18th. Did she jump? Was she thrown out? Could it all have been avoided if only a drunk woman hadn't been driving?
Tina Herman hasn't shown up to work. She goes to Tina's house to check on her. What she finds inside is one of the most shocking crime scenes in American history. 4 people are missing, and the house is covered in blood and gore. The community is in shock as the Herman household, once full of life, turns into the center of a horrifying mystery. And only one man knows the truth.